In this tutorial, we're going to look at lists and for loops. So I'm going to go to the Marin Makerspace account, open the starter code, fork it over to my account once it loads. And now I have a copy of it in my account. So looking at this, we're reviewing lists, which we touched on briefly in our variables video. A list is the most versatile data type in Python. They're written as a sequence of comma-separated values or items between square brackets. For example, list 1 are numbers 1, 2, 3. If we print that, we should see each item in the list. So we'll do that in a second. List 2 could be, this has both strings and numbers, and that's really important because lists don't have to be the same variable type. And then if we look down here, if we want to access certain values in a list, like I don't want to print out the whole list, I just want to print out the first item in the list, you access it using those square brackets and putting the index value. Remember, lists are counted 0, 1, 2, 3, not starting at 1. So let's just run this code and see what happens. So I get list 1, 1, 2, 3, list 2, apple to basketball 15, and then the first item in list 1 is the number 1. Again, remember the first item, 0, is the index. That's how we access the list item, and it starts at 0. For more information about lists and working with them, I've provided a link in here to tutorialspoint.com, looking at their Python. It's a really great website to keep learning about Python. But let's move on to for loops. So a for loop, and loops in general, as we learned in our while loops last week, allow you to execute a statement or group of statements multiple times. So for loops specifically iterate over the items of any sequence, such as lists or strings. So they have the following syntax: for iterating variable, which is generally referred to as the index or I, in the sequence, do something, the statements. So for item in list 1, here's our example. Let me uncomment that. There we go. For item in list 1, print item in list 1 and then item. And item is referred to here. It's a variable that we didn't have to create earlier. We created it inside that for loop. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. So I'm getting my lists in the first item again. So then I'm going to item in list 1, 1, item in list 1, 2, item in list 1, 3. So for each item, and there were 3 items in list 1, just going back, list 1 is 1, 2, 3. So for each item, there are 3. It prints a statement and then the item, which is what I see here. For more information about loops and how to work with them, again, I've provided a link on tutorialpoint.com. Again, great website to check out. Now let's move on to investigating. I have 3 blocks of code here, and let's look at them and then add comments to predict the outcome of each for loop. So the first thing I see is I have a list of strings. So I think I'll comment that, list of strings. And then for I in list 3, print I plus S. So I think I, from our previous examples, I is going to print apple, banana, orange, but it's going to add an S. And because they're strings, it will do concatenation. So I'm going to output the plural of list items. So I should get apples, bananas, and oranges, is what I'm guessing. And then for I in range length of list 3, this is a new thing we haven't looked at yet. So len is length of list 3. The length of list 3 would be 3. So for 3 times, I is going to count 1, 2, 3. It's going to print current fruit and then list and the index value, which you might think if it's counting 1, 2, 3, then won't this not work? We won't get apple. Well, you're right. So really it's counting 0, 1, 2 because that's 3 values. So I think this is going to print output current fruit with a colon, and then it will list apple, and it will do a new line and do the same thing but change it up with banana or orange. And now let's look at list 4. It's also a list of, it's a list of numbers. And for each item in list 4, it's going to print I times 2. So we're doing a little math here, and our output is going to be 4 times 2, which is 8, 5 times 2, which is 10, and 6 times 2, which is 12. Let's give this a run and see if we get what we've predicted. So for the first one, we should get plural list of the items. The second one, we should get 3 lines. It's one that says current fruit apple, then current fruit banana, current fruit orange, and then we'll get 3 numbers output, 8, 10, 12. Apples, bananas, oranges, current fruit apple, banana, orange, 8, 10, 12. Now let's try some of our own. Given this morning routine list, turn off the alarm, make coffee, shower, brush teeth. These are all strings, and part of someone's morning routine. Let's print that and just see what happens. Okay, so we've got our list printed here. We're going to modify this list using the insert method for lists, adding get out of bed after turn off the alarm and before make coffee. Then we'll print the updated list. And we've given you a hint to use this syntax for insert as the method. You call the list name, you do .insert, the index number where you want what you're trying to insert at that spot, and then what you're inserting. So let's try morning routine .insert. So we want it to be after turn off the alarm, but before make coffee, and we're looking for that index. So turn off the alarm is index 0, make coffee is index 1. We want it at index 1. And then we're going to add, what are we adding? Get out of bed. And then we're going to print morning routine. And we can maybe help ourselves by saying updated list. Routine. Let's run that, see what happens. So our updated list does have get out of bed added, and everything else is still there. It just got pushed back an index. Moving on, we now want to append. We want to add an item after brushing our teeth to the list. Similar structure, we're going to call the list name, use .append. This time we just have to say what we want to append because it's going to be added to the end. So let's do morning routine, append, get dressed. And then we'll print updated list, maybe 2, because it's the second time that we've updated it. And then print morning routine again. Just for the sake, I'm going to turn off the the middle one that we did. Okay, so update list 2, we've now added get dressed after brush teeth, and our get out of bed is still there. Okay, now we want to modify the for loop here. Let's uncomment it. So that the output looks like this. A numbered order of number 1, turn off the alarm. Number 2, get out of bed. So kind of like we're making our to-do list for the morning. So right now, if we printed it, I think we just get the items in the list. Let's give that a try. I'm going to, again, turn off our previous print. If I hit run, I get all of our items, but they're not numbered. So we need to add a number to them. So I'm going to keep the print I, but I need a number. Well, previously, if I think that maybe I can do morning routine and use that index, the problem is that this won't print. This isn't an index. I is the actual item. Turn off the alarm. So that isn't an index. This won't work. So let's modify this for loop. We're going to do in the range of length of the morning routine. That way I will have a number. I is going to be counting. And so I can print I, which would be the number, and then I can print the morning routine and access each value based on I. Let's run that and see if I get this list with numbers now. And I do, but this starts at 0, and we don't count starting at 0. So I'll do I plus 1 here and keep it I in the morning routine. There we go. 1, turn off alarm. 2, get out of bed. So there are 6 to-dos on our list for morning routine. Okay, we've modified. Now we're on to create. We can create our own for loop program with lists. So this create challenge that we have for you is asking you to create 2 lists, such as ice cream flavors and orders, or maybe sports teams and their rankings, or any 2 things that would relate to each other that you could. And then we want to write a program that outputs each list value together in a corresponding order. So if we were given the flavors and orders, the output would be chocolate 3, vanilla 5, strawberry 2, because chocolate is the first item and it corresponds with orders, the first item in orders. So a hint here, we're going to need to use nested loops and an if-else statement. We haven't covered nested loops, but as you can imagine, it's a loop inside of a loop. And we have looked at if-else statements. So this is a bit of a challenge. And again, if you're not quite sure how to get started or what nested loops are, check out the link above, tutorialspoint.com, Python. Okay, but I know that when I start a for loop, it's for. I'll do I. Oh, you know what? I'm going to uncomment these. I am going to use the flavors and the orders lists here. I'm going to try to output chocolate, vanilla, strawberry with those numbers. So let's look at, for I in flavors, let's print I. And that should print out chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. It does. Great. Now I need to get the orders, 3, 5, and 2 printed next to them. So this is where I'm going to think about the nested loops. And I know I'm going to need to access the index values because I can't access them this way. So let's do range length of flavors That means that for every flavor, I will go through this list that many times. If I were to print I, I'll get 0, 1, 2, which is great. Those are the numbers I want to be able to access flavors. And if I test that out, flavors I should get back to my chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. Great. Okay, I do. So I do, eventually I want to print flavors and then maybe given the formatting above, something like that with orders I. Let's see if that works. And it does. Look, no nested loop needed. If you wanted to, though, make it more complicated, which is what I think I was going for when I assigned this, thinking about nested loops, I was thinking that we'd need a second variable. And say if I equals j, then print flavors I, orders j, else pass. And let's see if range of length of orders. Let's see if that would have worked too. It would have. I got the same result with a lot more lines of code. So hint, you don't need nested loops. You just need one for loop. Oh, it's missing a, didn't like that. Run again, same thing. There we go. Now that you've maybe played with creating your own, you may have not done the nested loops, as we discovered not needed. If you're looking for more of a challenge, jump over back to the Marin Maker page and look at Try This Hangman. We want you to write a program that works like Hangman, where the user is asked to input a letter, and then that letter is tested against the letters in a secret word. And if they guess correctly, it outputs to the screen the letter where it should be in the word. This is definitely a challenge and a jump up. Good luck.